So, what am I talking about now from a visual metrics point of view? Well, visual metrics are all about delivering pre-packaged performance management, business intelligence, analytical, KPI applications. How do we take a standard set of business challenges, pre-template them at the information layer, and pre-template them at the data integration layer to deliver value for lower risk, more content rich, and reduced time? And it's all around understanding subject areas. So I'm just going to briefly dive into social housing. So for those of you who are in the public sector but not into social housing, think about operational costs, asset management, customer service, and cash. These drivers are, these bottom two sets of drivers are totally and utterly industry transportable. Information aggregation, general ledger, HR, customer, product, time, drill, analysis, financial comparatives. How do we do budget, actual, variance? Is my actual 5% ahead of plan or 25% behind plan? And how does that impact net cash today? Where do we get that from? Use self-service, integrity and integration, one version of the truth. Automation, you want to know that when you walk in, our most complex project was actually in the financial services sector with TravelX. They update their data warehouse around currency transactions every 15 minutes. You don't need real-time information access in the majority, in most sectors. But the technology is not an inhibitor to execution at all. If you look at the subject areas, and we'll talk social housing, Richard's primary driver in his executive role is all around building long-term value and mitigating financial risk. So how do we go and build more affordable homes of a mixed tenure basis in an area with a community, with maybe some external investment? It could be through the public sector, it could be public and private, and as well as some internal stuff, and drive that in terms of our long-term customer service tenancy experience, as well as growth in our long-term balance sheet value. But we've also got to satisfy a load of people. The customer is king, no doubt. Operational staff are a high cost to your business. If you don't deliver the information they need, timely, relevant to their role, then you're not actually delivering value against the operational cost of their payroll overhead. The finance function are critical, knowledge workers at the management level, then the executives, who actually, as Richard Neal said, are information consumers, but they can be, quite frankly, a pain in the butt. Because if they see something that's out of kilter negatively, they're going to be on your case. Give them the information to allow them to make an effective decision. And then finally, and very importantly, is the external bodies. It could be the private sector investor, but in the public sector, it's regulators. And I know there's a lot of change going on in the public sector, but regulatory comparatives are really important, because as long as you can prove to them one version of the truth against the set of metrics that you've defined in your organisation, you get 3 stars. And they go away and you sleep well at night. Funnily enough, that's exactly what happened at PFP. And these guys delivered against the external regulators' audit from a commission's point of view. And it's because they've actually engaged all 4 of those quadrants. This is the classic story of today. And some of these information points are social housing based. However, there's an executive management report pack. There's something around housing ops and stuff around the budget for finance, and there might be a divisional housing operations report as well. And then I've got a commercial developments report, and I've got a customer satisfaction report. And then down the next level of information in the hierarchy, I've got line of business information reports. And all of these things are being driven out of these transactionally important source applications. And they're all being done on an ad hoc basis. I talked this morning about the information supply chain and information automation. This is what exists in all organisations today. highly manually intensive information consolidation that is done on a daily, weekly, monthly, repetitive basis. And when it all comes down to that point there, we still don't know that it's true. And not only do we not know it's not true, we also know that it's 3 to 6 weeks out of date. So let's drive the car looking through the rearview mirror. That's a happy way to drive an organisation forwards, be you 20 million turnover or £2 billion of turnover, whether you're 1% EBITDA or 10% EBITDA. That is an organisation out of control. And sadly, most companies that we talk to are in that situation. So what do we have in the world of social housing? What we have done, and we have done it in conjunction with people like Place of People, is we built a set of dimensional models around the business views, from everything from commercial developments, income, areas of repairs, tenancy and voids, and we draw data out of the source systems. And we don't just take the extracts, what we do is we build the business transformation rules in, and then we automate and integrate with integrity the data into offline data models. And over on this side, we then look at it in terms of the information consumer community. So an executive, like Chief Exec, Place of People, would just want a scorecard and a very significant view of red, amber, green, RAG reporting, 10 minutes on the phone, first thing in the morning, and then go and do his executive role or his political role. Down here, in the dashboards and the reports and the analysis on the rump of the business consumer community that are going to affect positive change by delivering the content relevant to the role. So what we have done is we have built sets of standard schemas, data models by subject area around finance, customer, asset, and the big hard work underneath the iceberg is all the ETL pre-developed packaging that goes alongside that. Of the plumbing, we've pre-mapped all the metadata based on subject, user roles so they can consume it, and then a suite of dashboards so people in their role can access through that cycle all the relevant data based on their responsibility. So if you remember the slide I had before that we've got 12 transactional systems over here, loads of data management going on that delivered out an exec report that was out of time, out of integrity, out of value. What we deliver is a set of extracts and a set of transformations delivered into, I'll not use the term that much today, but the data warehouse that then delivers out through business objects, through the metadata layer, a set of views relevant to role. And that's an example of how we automate in the income and expenditure area. So this is an example of the data model. So around the outside are the dimensions relevant to the subject area. This is a financial view, and in the middle are facts that we build to allow people to then multidimensionally report on the way information is analysed based on role. And I talked earlier on about information automation. This is what it's all about. You know, and the world is going to adopt these pre-packaged analytics, and actually we're working with SAP in putting a program in place all around these pre-developed apps based on role. One of the things Business Objects and SAP, now they're part of a larger corporation, bring to you is best of breed technology. Visualmetrics actually work with multiple BI vendors, and we understand a lot of the technology. The two things that are important about technology is understanding its fitness for purpose, and then how applying it in business value, business context. What's great about Business Objects in an SAP context is not only do they deliver dashboards, reports, concept searching, office integration, and alerting in terms of event management, scorecards, analysis, query. Take all those things as given. You might find niche vendors do little bits, but then you end up with 5 or 10 BI tools in your organisation, and you want to consolidate to one version of BI technology. It's got an integration layer, and one of the great things they did when they bought Crystal Enterprise is the server component scales massively at the technical level. Security, user role, data information access, and then down here is all the integration stuff, data integration, data quality. So it's not just about BI, it's about cradle to grave integration. And every company that we go and talk to has to understand this, because it's not about technology alone. It is about technology, but technology and methodology are fundamentally important to getting projects of this nature right. Understanding those transactional information sources and how we draw the data are fundamentally important. Empowering the organisation then to make informed, accurate, effective, positive decisions is really important. But if you don't have an organisational and a governance mindset to address this and take it forwards, my advice to you is, don't start. Do not bother. Because without understanding the business change, transformation that you go through, you will invest in a very functionally rich application with a set of technologies from a great software organisation, exploiting your own data, but you'll then end up with a pre-packaged application on the shelf. So you need to have the governance and the mindset and the change culture to go through that. And you might start small and discreet in a business pain area where there's a positive culture of I want to change, or it might be at an executive level where they say, I'm going to strategically change my organisation and I'll cascade that down. And technology and data and methodology are enablers to help you. But without the right mindset and the right change culture, actually you'll sub-optimise your investment. Thanks for your time.